Hello students, welcome to the class of plant tissue culture. In today's topic, we shall see the factors affecting organogenesis, cytodifferentiation, dedifferentiation, differentiation, and factors affecting differentiation. In this class particularly, we shall be dealing about organogenesis and factors affecting organogenesis. First, let us see what is the meaning of these three different terminologies. Differentiation is the process which leads to maturation of the cells is called as differentiation. So, it is the maturation of the cell. During differentiation, a few major changes happen in the protoplasm and the cell walls of the cells. For example, tracheal element. The cells of the tracheal element lose their protoplasm and develop a very strong, elastic, lignocellulose secondary cell wall. These changes help the tracheal element to carry water to long distance even under extreme tension. So, this is what is the meaning of differentiation. That is, it is leading to the maturation of the individual part of the plant. And herein they have given the example of the tracheal element. Tracheal element is already a developed organ, but it is further undergoing maturation. How? It is losing their protoplasm. And then what is happening? It's developing into a strong elastic lignocellulosic secondary cell wall. By changing this, by undergoing maturation, what is happening to the tracheal element? It is helping, this maturation is helping the tracheal element to carry water to long distances, even under extreme tension. So this process is known as differentiation. This is one example of differentiation is. So coming to dedifferentiation. A differentiated cell can regain its capacity for cell division under certain division. This phenomenon is called as dedifferentiation. So, a cell is already differentiated into whatever it has to form in a plant. It is already differentiated into that part. So, this differentiated cell can again regain its capacity to undergo cell division. A differentiated cell again regaining the power to undergo cell division under certain condition is known as dedifferentiation. For example, formation of interfascicular cambium and cork cambium from fully differentiated parenchyma cell is an example of dedifferentiation. So here what is we are telling? It is fully differentiated parenchyma cells. And again what is happening? It is undergoing differentiation. So already differentiated cell is again undergoing differentiation by means of the cell division, and that process is called as dedifferentiation. Coming to redifferentiation, a dedifferentiated plant cells once again loses its capacity to divide and become mature. So a dedifferentiated cell. What is a dedifferentiated cell? A dedifferentiated cell is already a differentiated cell, but they undergo again division. That is what we have defined as dedifferentiation. But what is redifferentiation? A dedifferentiated plant cell once again loses its capacity to divide and become mature. This phenomena is called as redifferentiation. Okay, it cannot, that is, this whichever is redifferentiation cells means they cannot undergo dedifferentiation. They are already differentiated, and again they cannot undergo dedifferentiation. They have lost the capacity for undergoing again dedifferentiation. That phenomena is called as redifferentiation. Dedifferentiation means a differentiated cell can regain the capacity for cell division again. That is known as dedifferentiation. Differentiation means it's a simple terminology. Okay, so each of the plant, if you just know the leaf or the stem or whatever may be the plant, okay, a young plant will undergo maturation, and that is called as differentiation. So when they undergo maturation, there are some changes in those plant material, and these are the useful changes. For example, we saw the tracheal element, how they underwent changes. Already a tracheal element was present, but they matured again into to serve as a carry water to a longer distance. So these are the difference between the differentiation, dedifferentiation and redifferentiation, which is important for the examination. So as we have already defined what is organogenesis is, we shall see once again what is it. Organogenesis means the development of adventitious organ or primordia from undifferentiated cell mass in a tissue culture by a process of differentiation. So whatever we are doing here, we are doing it in the laboratory. Yes. So here what happens, I have a, for example, take the example of callus. We told it is an undifferentiated, unorganized mass of cell. If it remains only as an undifferentiated mass of cell, what is the point? No, it's not useful for us. So it has to develop into some adventitious organ, or it should produce some primordia. Either into, that is the, I told primordia can be anything, early stages of the development of your shoot, root, whatever it can be. So from this undifferentiated cell, when these organs are being formed, how they are formed, they have to undergo differentiation. So I have a mass of undifferentiated cell. When it undergoes differentiation and it forms different organs of the plant, then that phenomena is known as organogenesis. Now, this organogenesis is of two types. One is indirect organogenesis and another is the direct organogenesis. So first we shall see the direct, what I have written, okay. We shall see the direct organogenesis. So in direct organogenesis, see here, direct organogenesis is accomplished without intervening proliferate callus stage. That means to tell that you have a primary explant. You know what is the explant? That explant is going to develop into a meristemoid. Okay. We also defined what is a meristemoid is. I told you that it is the triangular cells which act like a stem cells. Okay. So these meristemoids will develop. Okay. They are like meristemoids are characterized like aggregation of meristematic cell like. They are like meristem cells. They can occur directly on any explant or even in the callus. So remember that is the meristemoid. It is a, I just mentioned, it is a triangular structure like which acts like a stem cells. Meristemoid, meristem, that is it is an aggregation of meristem like not the meristem itself, like meristem like cells. Okay, so what happens? What is the function of the meristem? It is to undergo cell division, right? So your primary explant will develop the meristemoid and develop into the organ primordium. So whatever organ it wants, it will develop. That is called as the direct organogenesis. So the tissues from leaf, stem, root can be directly cultured to produce the plant organs. These are called what? Explants. In direct organogenesis, the tissue undergoes morphogenesis. I'll show you the picture. See, this is the direct morphogenesis. You take any explant, okay, leaf, stem, root, inflorescence, and can be directly cultured to produce what? Plant organs. In direct organogenesis, the tissue undergoes morphogenesis, that is different stages of development, without going through a callus or the suspension culture stage. The term direct adventitious organ formation occurs. Directly the organs are formed, and this phenomena is known as organogenesis, direct organogenesis. So what is indirect? In indirect organogenesis is when it occurs when the callus or the suspension culture formation occur. That is, you are taking your explant. That explant is not developing directly into your adventitious shoot or root. No, look at this. They are converting themselves into callus or either suspension cells. Suspension cells, I told you, they are the single cells. Okay, and then what is happening? Then they are forming the shoot, then they are forming the root. So it is an indirect means, right? Whereas the direct one is bypassing this and directly forming the adventitious shoot and root. But this is, it is forming callus, this is forming suspension culture, and then forming the shoot and the root. So this is the difference. So for the induction of your adventitious shoot formation directly on the roots, leaves from various other organs of intact plant is widely used method for the plant propagation. For appropriate organogenesis in culture system, exogenous addition of growth regulators is necessary. And what are the particular growth regulators you use? You use the auxin and the cytokinin is required. So whether it is an indirect mode or it is a direct mode, for an appropriate organogenesis, that is to form an appropriate organ from the callus or from the explant or from the suspension culture, you should add the auxins and cytokinin, which are the growth regulators or the hormones of the plant. How you are adding? You are adding. The plant itself is not producing endogenously. Whereas those plants which you are growing in your garden, they produce that endogenously. Whereas this is you're producing in the laboratory. So you should add it. So it is called as exogenous addition. So hopefully you understood the meaning of indirect organogenesis and direct organogenesis. So primary explant, here what? Callus has been formed, otherwise suspension culture is formed, then meristemoid is formed and organ primordium is formed. That organ can develop into any part of the plant accordingly how you are adding the hormones. So shoot bud formation may decrease with age and subculture of the callus tissue. That means to say that as your callus is getting aged, what we are doing, we are always transferring the callus, subculturing it. But even that gets aged, right? So the shoot bud formation may decrease with the age of the subculture of the callus. If I'm taking an old callus and if I want to develop into a shoot, the probability of me getting the shoot is very less. Whereas rooting may persist for longer period. In some calli, rooting occur more often than other form of organogenesis. So usually what they have observed is in some of the callus, rooting occurs more often than any other form like the shoot or any other form of organogenesis. So during organogenesis, if the root are first formed, then it is very difficult to induce the shoot bud formation from the same callus tissue. But if shoots are first formed, it may form roots or remain as rootless unless shoots are transferred into another media or hormone less medium or condition that induce the root formation. So what it means to tell is, see, you're telling that as a callus is getting old, shoot is not being formed. But that is not the case with the root. It can form. The root is forming. And they've also observed in this line what it is saying, some callus rooting occurs more often than any other organogenesis. So if in an organogenesis, during the plant organ formation, if root is first formed in that callus or in the suspension culture by direct or indirect method, it is always difficult to induce the shoot bud formation from the same callus. Okay, so it is difficult to form a shoot. If the first root forms, shoot formation is difficult. That is the what is the meaning of the sentences. But if shoot are first formed, it may form the roots or remain as rootless. So let me draw it and show it. So if this is a callus or anything, suspension culture or anything, just remember, if root is formed first, okay, these are the roots. Formation of shoot is delayed or it is difficult to form. On the other hand, this is your organogenesis, that is, it's going to develop into any organ form. If the shoot is first formed, okay, the shoot is first formed, then it is probably you can keep only the shoot itself. It may, or it can form roots, or it may not form roots. It depends on the person whoever wants to induce the shoot. I mean the root. So it may form roots or it remains rootless unless the shoots are transferred into a media or hormoneless media or condition that induce the root formation. So suppose say I added an hormone, which is the hormone auxin. I added auxin here. So what happens? It will form the root. So in what type of media I'm keeping, that is very important. So always it becomes very important, you have to bear in the mind. First, it is better to form the shoot and then the root, not the vice versa. Okay? Because whenever the root is being formed, production of the shoot is very difficult even if there is the presence of the hormone. We are not saying that it cannot be formed. We are saying it is difficult to form the shoot. But on the other hand, if shoot is formed, it is very easy to form the root. Now, let us see what are the factors that are involved, which are the influencing the formation of organogenesis. Very important question for major question. So, size of the explant. So organogenesis is generally dependent on the size of the explant. The larger the explant consisting of parenchyma, vascular tissue, cambium have a greater regenerative ability than the smaller explants. Small group of homogeneous tissues taken from the epidermal and subepidermal layer could directly give rise to complex organs such as the flower or buds or roots. So usually advantages is to take the larger explants. Okay, they show the better ability for regeneration. Coming to the source of the explant. The source of the explant cultured is important in determining the organogenesis. The most suitable part of the plant for starting the culture will depend on the species. What type of species you have chosen as a source of the explant? So, many reports have told that many of the monocotyledon species with specialized storage organ possesses a profound capacity to produce the buds. So, it is usually the monocotyledon species which have the better opportunity to form the organogenesis. Coming to your age of your explant. So, the scientists have observed in a plant species called as Echeveria, the leaf explant of Echeveria species that are collected from young leaves produce only root. So, this plant, they have collected the young leaves and they have seen that it is only producing root. Whereas from the same plant, they have collected older leaves and it initiates only the shoot bud formation. And from the same plant, they have taken the leaves of the medium age. It produces both shoots and root. So this example itself tells you that age of the explant plays an important role in the organogenesis formation. Coming to your seasonal variation, does the climatic condition affect the organogenesis? Yes, they do. Please keep in mind, we are speaking all this under the laboratory condition. Don't confuse yourself with the externally grown plant. Whenever we are speaking about plant tissue culture, your imagination should be that you are in the laboratory. Okay, so seasonal variation. Now, seasonal variation, if you look at that, this bulb scales, okay, of the Lilium speciosum, it is a species, okay, a plant, Liliums, regenerates bulblets freely in vitro when the explant is taken during the spring and the autumn period of the growth. So, if you're taking the explant of this Lilium species during the spring and the autumn period, it is seen that it is able to grow in the vitro. But the same explant collected in the summer or winter season does not produce any bulblet. So seasonal variation also plays an important role. Age also is playing role. The species is also playing role. You see here, the seasonal variation is also important. So coming to the oxygen gradient. Oxygen gradient in a tissue culture often exercises an influence on the organ formation. In some cultures, shoot bud formation takes place when the gradient of the available oxygen inside the culture vessel is reduced when they are low. But rooting requires a high oxygen gradient. So, shoot bud, what happens when the shoot bud you're forming, the oxygen inside the culture vessel should be reduced. It should be minimum. But whenever you're rooting, it requires a high oxygen gradient. Quality and intensity of light. No, the quality and intensity of the incident light on the culture also play an important role in the promotion of organogenesis. So studies have relieved or they have shown that blue region of the spectrum promotes shoot formation and red light induces rooting. The treatment of the blue light followed by the treatment of the red light also stimulates organogenetic phenomena. So, the treatment of the blue light is causing the shoot formation. And if you're treating only with the red light, it is causing the rooting. If I want shoot and root, first I will put that plant, explant under the blue light, and then I'll put it in the red light. So first let the shoot form and then let the root form. So the light illumination required for organogenesis is 2000 to 3000 lux for 16 hours photo period. For 16 hours you require the light, whichever light, blue light or the red light. Coming to the temperature. So most of your tissue cultures are grown successfully at a temperature around 25 degrees centigrade. In a number of bulbous species, the optimum temperature may be lower than minus 15 degrees centigrade. Tropical species require higher temperature. For example, date palm. It requires 27 degrees centigrade. Or maybe any other plant which is growing in the tropical countries require higher temperature than the 27 degrees centigrade. So your optimal temperature is 25. But there are species, some plants which are growing in the temperate regions which require a lower temperature, and some species which grow in the higher regions, in the tropical regions, require slightly a higher temperature. Plant hormones. So of course, they do play an important role. When you have seen the temperature, oxygen and seasonal variation itself is playing important role. Plant hormones, should you say? Yes, obviously they play an important role. When the concentration of your cytokinin are high relative to auxin, shoots are induced. So if the cytokinin is high compared to auxin, shoots are induced. When the concentration of cytokinin are low relative to your auxin, roots are produced. So vice versa. And an intermediate concentration, the tissues grow as an unorganized callus. So intermediate cytokinin and auxin, they are in the intermediate concentration. Then what happens? Unorganized callus is formed. So endogenous ethylene retards organ initiation during the early stages of culture. But in later stages, it helps in the shoot formation. But we have already spoken telling that usually it is your auxin, cytokinin and gibberellic acid which are commonly used in the growth as a growth hormones, plant growth hormones. Otherwise, your abscisic acid and ethylene most of the times have shown negative most of the time. Okay. Coming to the culture media. So the essential compounds for the plant cell culture media are the macro or the major salts and micro or the minor salts. Besides that, they require vitamins, amino acids, carbohydrates, and other sources whichever you studied previously are also required for the in vitro growth and development of the plant cells. Now, this inorganic nitrogen plays most important role in the plant cell because its presence is there in the structure of the protein molecule. So this inorganic nitrogen plays important role because this is a part and parcel of your protein molecule. So increase in the phosphate concentration induces shoot formation and suppresses the root initiation. Calcium is required because it is an important constituent of your cell walls and it forms the calcium pectate. Iron, zinc, molybdenum are parts of certain enzymes. The organic supplements required in plant culture medium include your carbon sources and, as I said earlier, even the vitamins. So sucrose is used as a carbon source. We have spoken about this earlier also. Apart from sucrose, it can be substituted with glucose. Apart from the sucrose and glucose, any other carbohydrate has not shown much influence on the organogenesis. So vitamins also do play an important role, particularly your inositol, nicotinic acid, pyridoxine, thiamine, calcium pantothenate, and biotin. So this thiamine is required for the growth. Vitamin E has been shown to regulate the cell aggregation. Vitamin D induces root formation. So all this culture media, all this you have individually studied in the part of the culture media nutrition, whatever is required. So you can see that in short, we have explained here again what are the necessity for the plant and what vitamins enhances what development of the organ. So next what coming to our agar. Agar, we told it is an inert compound and mostly why we are using agar as a gelling and a solidifying agent. Agar is not an essential component of the culture medium. In plant tissue culture, the culture medium is gelled with agar. The quantity of agar plays an important role in organogenesis. If your agar medium becomes too hard, then it does not allow the diffusion of the nutrient. Okay, so if this is my conical flask and this is my agar, everything is a solid media here and my explant is growing. And if it is very hard, how will the nutrients diffuse if your agar is so hard? So it becomes a problematic. And commercially available agar contains impurities. So suppose if you want to study the nutritional content of your plant, that time you cannot use such type of agar. You should go for a very high quality agar which is containing the less impurities. For example, like this DIFCO, Bacto agar containing less impurities are used. Then your pH of the media. The pH of the culture medium, we have already told that it is between 5.6 to 5.8 and it should be adjusted before the sterilization condition. Then coming to the polyploidy level. You have studied in genetics what are polyploidy, aneuploidy, autoaneuploidy, all this. So, ploidy means variation in the chromosome number. That is, for example, aneuploidy. Aneuploidy is what? It can be addition of a chromosome or a deletion of a chromosome. But this addition and deletion of the chromosome is harmful in animals, whereas in the plant, they are usually have the useful effect, okay, which you'll be studying when you study about the agricultural biotechnology. And so variation in the chromosome number is example is the aneuploidy or polyploidy. Polyploidy is what? Extra set of chromosome. For example, if this is your pair of chromosome, this is what diploid. One more chromosome gets added. Polyploidy. This is what triploid. One more gets added. Tetraploid. So the variation of chromosomal of the plant cell in culture has been well documented. It is generally observed that with the increase in the chromosome instability, there is gradual decline in the morphogenic potentiality of the callus tissue. So if there is instability in your chromosome, and usually this happens because we are growing it in the laboratory, the same thing we are subculturing, okay, so there will be genetic instability. I already spoke about this in the last class also. So what happens? It declines in the morphogenetic potentiality. Morphogenesis means the different stages of the plant development, particularly it affects the callus tissue. So in order to maintain the chromosome stability, you have to go for subculturing. So every time what you're doing in subculturing, you're adding the new media. Coming to the age of the culture. Now the age of the culture plays an important role. A young culture frequently produces the organs, but the organogenic potential may decrease and ultimately disappear in the older culture. So young cultures are better. In certain cultures of some plants, the plant regeneration capacity may retain indefinitely for many years. So a young culture frequently produces the organ, but the organogenetic potential may decrease and ultimately it may disappear in old culture. And in certain cultures of some plants, the plant regeneration capacity may retain indefinitely for many years. You can keep it. It will be there for many years. So these are the 13 important parameters which define your organogenesis. So organogenesis is the formation of the organs, the primordials, which develops into different organs of your plant. So from an undifferentiated mass of the tissue, you are differentiating it in the laboratory. And that once it is differentiated, it gets matured to develop into different part of the whole plant. My ultimate aim of plant tissue culture is to produce a whole plant from and taking an explant from a piece of plant, part of plant. So I can develop organ directly or indirectly. That is, I take the explant and directly produce the plant shoot and then root, or I can develop indirectly by just forming the callus or suspension culture and then form the shoot and root. And all this physical, chemical parameters are necessary for the development of the organ. The size, source, the age of explant, seasonal variation, oxygen gradient, the light intensity, temperature, hormone, culture media, agar, pH of your media, ploidy level, age of the culture. All this determines the organogenesis. And prior to this, we also studied about the differentiation, dedifferentiation, and redifferentiation. So redifferentiation is the dedifferentiation part once again loses its capacity to divide and become mature. So you have to remember all this. With that, we shall end with this today's section. Thank you.